increased tanker traffic in the port of Vancouver is going to skyrocket as a result of this project?
Well, it's certainly, the project would result in more tankers than we have today. There's no question about that. And in terms of our terminal and the traffic in the eastern part of the harbor, it's a material change. I mean, today we load about 5 tankers a month. If the project was approved, we would see that increasing. And if it's approved and the pipeline's running full, what it's designed for is it's designed to serve up to 34 tankers a month. But if you think about that in terms of perspective for the overall shipping that's coming and going, I mean, Port of Vancouver is Canada's largest port. Today, tanker traffic represents only about 2% of the total ships that call, the total traffic in the port. If the project's approved, it would go to, our part of the traffic would account for about 7%.
Now, we're not talking VLCCs here.
No. Just as much because of the geography of the port, there are restrictions at second narrows that limit the size of vessels that can transit through that area. And without getting into too much technical jargon, it's an Aframax-sized ship. And so if you look at the fleet of tankers, the smaller end is the Panamax size. So this is a vessel that's designed to be able to transit the Panama Canal. The next size up from that is an Aframax, would be about 265 meters long and 44 meters wide. And those are the largest ships that call at our terminal today that exist now.
Are those tankers currently tethered? Are they using that tethered tug protocol?
They do. Today there's rules that are set by Port Metro Vancouver and by the Pacific Pilotage Authority that lay out where tug escorts are required. And so through Vancouver Harbor, the ships have 2 large tugs that are tethered to the stern, and usually 1 or 2 on the bow as well. And those tugs stay with the vessel through second narrows. The 2 tugs on the stern stay all the way through to English Bay. And then through Boundary Pass and Harrow Strait, so essentially through the Gulf Islands from Saturna Island to Victoria, there's a single tug that's tethered to the stern. The reason there's only 1 in that portion is because the channel's much wider, and so there's more room in order to deal with maneuvers. Whereas in the port where it's more restricted, there's more tug horsepower attached to the vessel to be able to keep it on a narrower path. And both the tug masters and the pilots have practiced both in simulators and in real time maneuvers where if there was a failure of the ship's system, so for example if the rudder went hard over just as it was coming towards the bridge or some other key intersection, the tugs are able to maintain the tanker on its path and stop it if necessary, take it to a safe anchorage.
No doubt in people's mind will be the Russian container ship that was up off of Haida Gwaii, and people will be saying, but what happens if it loses power?
Sure.
When we're in coastal waters, is there room for concern there?
Well, and that's largely what these tug escorts are there for, and it's what sets tankers apart from other types of vessels, like the Russian freighter that was in the news recently. The tugs are actually attached to the vessel, and they're there for exactly that. If there's a failure of the ship systems, if the engine stalls, or if the rudder doesn't respond. With our project, as part of the work that we've done around our risk assessment for the project, and it's part of what will be reviewed by the National Energy Board, we have proposed that the additional sections of the transit between Westridge and the mouth of Juan de Fuca would have a tug. A tug would be available to escort the vessel as well too. So there's already today under current regulation there's a requirement for tugs through the harbor and through the Gulf Islands, and what we proposed is that a tug would stay with the vessel between English Bay and Saturna Island, and then from Victoria out to the mouth of Juan de Fuca. And that tug would be there for exactly what you were just asking about, which is if there was some, the unlikely event that there was some failure of the ship systems and it needed an assist, instead of having to rely on a tug to be dispatched from somewhere, the tug would be right there with the ship and would be able to intervene.
What's the safety record so far on movement of those tankers?
Yeah, well, there's never been a spill from vessels calling at tankers calling at Westridge, and I'm not aware of any tanker-based spills out of Vancouver Harbor for as long as records have been kept.
I know you can't give absolute guarantees, but people who are opponents will always say, well, ultimately it's going to happen. The odds are just that it's going to happen. when somebody brings that up, they go, "But come on, Mike."
Yeah, you know, I've heard that. I've heard that a lot of times. I've heard people say, you know, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And I think one has to look at all the safety management systems that are in place. We've looked at what the chance of a large spill is today based on the existing traffic from our terminal, and it's something that has a return period of about once in just over 3,000 years.